Hey guys, welcome to another video. This is going to be put up on my main channel. Obviously, this is going to be a bit more of a deeper subject than normal because this video is going to be about my anxiety. It's going to be about how my anxiety started and how I deal with it. Which, spoiler alert, I don't. Basically, I'm going to try and keep this video as unedited and as real as possible. There may be parts where I go a bit kind of quieter as I'm thinking about stuff, but here's a disclaimer though, I am fine. It's just there's some stuff that I need to think about before I say it. So everybody suffers with anxiety in very different ways. Everybody has anxiety, and it's just some people. So basically, anxiety is a natural response to a danger, it's basically an alarm system. When your alarm system goes off, it's normally a fight or flight response. So it's your body preparing to either fight the danger or run away. So in the case of, we'll say, use an athlete, they would have anxiety, which would prepare them for the fight, for the match, for whatever it is that they're doing. So for example, a football player, if they can cope with the anxiety, that would be them choosing the fight system. If they go away from the match and they don't seem like they want to be there, that would be them choosing the flight. That's just them shutting down, basically. So everybody has anxiety naturally, but for some people the alarm system is a lot more sensitive. So you have people will just get anxious over absolutely everything, and that's what I'm like. Without my tablets, which I don't think I have any up here. This is an empty case. I take citalopram. I take 20 milligrams per day, and basically, without taking them, I'm an absolute mess. I'm so anxious, like all the time. But with them, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine now because I've been taking them for a good 5 years, I think. Started taking them when I was 18, so it's going to be 5 years this year. Obviously, all it is just my body, my system is ultra sensitive, and I remember I've had breakdowns. I've had really bad anxiety days. But thanks to taking the tablets, I ended up going all the way up to 30 milligrams, but then my body didn't react well to them, so I brought them back down to 20 milligrams a day. I remember, so basically my anxiety started off through not grieving properly, because in December 2010, my granddad sadly passed away through cancer, and all the while I thought he was going to get better. So there's me in denial, and then all of a sudden he's not there. Basically, he'd had a lump in his throat the year previous, so I looked at that and I was like, well, he survived that one. Like, they managed to get it out. I'm sure they can manage it again. Now, bear in mind, I was just turned 15 when, well, I was just turned 14 or around 14 when the first one was removed, and then I went back, and then when he had the second lot, I was just around 15. I was coming up to 15 when he was diagnosed, and it was in December, and I was 15 years 2 months when he passed away. And he was a big part of my life. He's one of the few male role models I've had in my life. So obviously I was really close to him, and obviously it did really affect me. Still does to this day, really, but life goes on, I suppose. And basically, when it came around to the funeral, I was not prepared for it. I wasn't ready at all for the funeral, so I ended up not going. And then, of course, in the April of that year, I don't remember if I had a breakdown or if I just had anxiety, but I remember then having to go to the doctors with having had an anxiety attack, really bad one. And from there, they diagnosed me with anxiety. So from then on, they refused to put me on medication until I turned 18. So I had counselling, which it did sort of do the job, but then by the time it came around to the next counselling session, it was back to square one again. So that it does help to talk about it, but my problem was that I would only really talk about it in counselling. So obviously that just didn't have the desired effect. But when it came round, eventually I stopped with counselling. I went to a place called MAP at first, and then I tried going to my school. They had a counsellor. He was really good to talk to. I would suggest if there's anybody watching it who's at school who's anxious, always go to school counsellor first. They're fully trained for that, so I would definitely suggest that. He tried hypnotherapy on me, which it worked for like a day, and then the next day it just went back to square one again. Then I went to college. Sixth form year was a complete disaster between relationship issues and making loads of mistakes with the classes I took. That was just a complete disaster. That really didn't help my anxiety. And then there was also my grandma then passed away that year through cancer again, which it didn't help me at all with that. But I ended up going to college. I went to college for 2 years, and everything was actually pretty good for those 2 years. So I can't complain too much about that. But it probably could have been better. I just didn't really try hard enough with that. But then I ended up going to work. And work was... the start of my work life was pretty good. I started working, and for the first 3 months I had no issues, and then all of a sudden I was having issues with the management. That didn't help. I'm not sure how much detail I can go into on that one, but luckily the job I'm at now, the management are great. Everything's much better now for me with my with regard to work. But school, I probably should have tried harder. Sixth form and college, I should have tried harder. So that probably didn't help with my anxiety. I remember once going into going into exam season, I had another breakdown, a complete breakdown about one of my pieces of homework that I couldn't do or didn't do or something, I don't remember. And this was, obviously, I wasn't on medication at the time, so everything built right up, and yeah, I didn't do... In fact, that might have actually been sixth form. I'm not sure. But either way, that was sixth form or school. It was a geography exam paper that we had to do as homework, and yeah, that didn't go too well. So obviously everybody has different symptoms of anxiety. Everybody's different. Everybody's unique anyway. So when it comes to anxiety, different things make people anxious. The things which make me anxious are mostly in social settings and obviously high pressure. I've been fine with that. I can handle pressure now under tablets. I can handle a lot more than I was able to. And it's important to separate your anxiety and you, because the way I look at it is, just because you're feeling anxious, it doesn't mean that that is a word to describe you. The feelings that you have when you're anxious, I find I'm not that person. When I'm, like, growing up all through school, I was super happy. I was basically carefree until I started getting the anxiety, and then obviously that made me start to feel very anxious. But for me, it's important to remember that that isn't me. That isn't who I am. So for me, the medication separates myself and the anxiety, so I can go and be myself more often than I can be this anxious version of me. It's almost like a alter ego. That's basically what it's like. I mean, when I'm anxious, I'm moody, I don't want to talk to people, I just want to put my head down and do whatever it is that I need to get done and then go home and go to bed. I've had quite a few bad anxiety days at work where either I've forgotten to take my tablet or just they're bad days. I remember one day everything went wrong, I couldn't find my stuff in the morning, then I got splashed as I was on my way to work. Then I think there was one or two awkward customers, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done for the day. And my way of looking at it is, tomorrow's a new day. So normally when I have these bad days, I will go and I will just get it done as quickly and as painlessly as possible. And then the next day I'll just go again. And then normally the next day is actually much better. The days where I've had my bad anxiety days, the next day have been pretty much anxiety free. Or at least they've been a lot easier on me. So that always helps, knowing that just because a bad day doesn't make a bad week, and a bad week doesn't make a bad year. It's kind of comforting in a way, knowing that once the day is done, you can just go again tomorrow. So I always find that helps. Honestly, even though I've said about these bad anxiety times, over that time period where I wasn't on medication, it wasn't all bad. I had a dog for a while who helped me out so much. Baby, I will probably insert a picture somewhere, I'm sure I did that last week, but she was absolutely the best dog I could have asked for. She was my best friend for 3.5 years, and even though she's not here, the progress that I made when we had her, because honestly that made things so much easier, knowing that I could come home and have cuddles with my dog, that was the best feeling. Even when I had those bad days at my last job where I was having problems with management, I could just come home and forget about it all and take her out for walks and just, genuinely be happy knowing that. I mean, I spent my entire life begging for a dog, but because my mum's allergic to dogs, there isn't very many breeds we could have, so we found a Shar-Pei was in the RSPCA, and we was just like, found out Shar-Peis are hypoallergenic, and we was just like, let's go for it, let's go and meet her, and we did, and we all absolutely loved her, and the rest is history from there. She was pretty much a guardian angel. Like, she came into our lives at just the right time when we all needed her to. That was, yeah, so she pretty much saved me from myself, because there were 1 or 2 times where I was feeling really low, and then after we got her, pretty much I felt good. And then even though obviously she's not with us anymore, the progress that I made under her, I made sure that I kept it up. I made sure that there was more good days than bad days, and that is partly through taking my medication, and that is partly because of her as well. So, and then obviously all the people around me, all my friends, all my family. But it's a different kind of connection that you have with your pets. I don't know what it is, but they're more. Obviously, everybody has a part to play in your life, but pets are more involved in your happiness, I suppose. Yeah, this is one of my quiet moments where I'm trying to think what to say next. So, basically, some tips for if you're suffering from anxiety or if you think you're suffering from anxiety. First off, don't diagnose yourself. Go see a medical professional, and that's with the case with everything, no matter what it is. Don't say like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Don't just do an online test and say, oh, I'm suffering with anxiety, because that's not going to do much. The best way to do it is to go and talk about it with your doctor or just anybody. Talk about it with a friend. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody you know either. There's sites online where you can talk to somebody, and they will give you honest advice from a neutral perspective. Like, obviously they don't know you, but if you do have a friend that you feel like you can talk to, a significant other, a friend, or even a pet, or a family member, just anything, just talk about it. Even if you just write down your thoughts and then rip it up. Anything that gets it out is good. I always find that talking about it does help. Obviously, like I said, pets help as well. Because the good thing about pets is they can't tell anybody, and they just listen. So if you are suffering with anxiety, I would definitely recommend getting a pet. If not, staying active always helps. I always find my best days when I've been rushing around and doing stuff and keeping on my feet. They're always the better days. If you're unable to do that, obviously, like I said, any of the other things, even just writing your thoughts down in a book, keep a journal with all your thoughts and keep track of what you're thinking when. But because I know obviously some days it's very difficult to keep positive when you're suffering from something like anxiety, or depression or anything like that. Just talk to somebody, get to the main cause of it, because I kind of figured out too late what the main cause of mine was. It was already, by the time anxiety starts and by the time you start having these panic attacks, that is the best time where you need to talk about what you're thinking and what's going on. And obviously mine was to do with grief, and by that point I didn't actually open up and talk about it for too long, like 4 or 5 months. And by the time you have like 3-4 anxiety attacks, there's a bit of damage to be undone. But the best way to do that is obviously talk, but medication obviously is another one that helps, but it entirely depends on what your doctor thinks. If your doctor thinks that you're better off getting therapy, counselling, I would say do that. At the end of the day, your doctor knows best. They deal with things like this on a day-to-day basis, so they can decide, like, this is what we think is the best course of action for you. If you live, obviously, if you don't live somewhere where they have healthcare like the NHS, then obviously it becomes a bit more difficult. I did have a list of things in my head that I was going to say helps out, but obviously I didn't write it down. So obviously you've got, what have I said, exercise, pets. This sounds ridiculous, and I know I'm going to get people saying, well, that's bad advice, but generally just stay positive. And when you're feeling anxious, here's a good tip to remember, is that when you're feeling anxious, remember that 90% of my anxiety attacks, I have had nothing to worry about. In fact, no, I would say every single panic attack, I've had absolutely nothing to worry about. Whether it's been something like asking somebody out and they've said no, which has happened a few times. They've said no and nothing's happened apart from they've said no. So I've not gained anything, not lost anything. Some of the more serious ones. Exams, then obviously they're important, but they're not the be all and end all. At the end of the day, as long as you do probably some extracurricular stuff, as long as you can manage to get your 7 A-star to C's. I know people who have just scraped by getting their A-star to C amount, gone on to college or sixth form and absolutely smashed that and got all. In fact, I know someone who got all A-stars, A-star at college after she said that she just barely scraped by the GCSEs and then went on to get A-star. And so even if you struggle in your GCSEs, as long as you get them 7, after you get your college ones, the GCSE ones won't matter anymore. So even if you struggle with your GCSEs, it's not the be all and end all. And then even if you just get by in your A-levels, it's not the be all and end all. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing in life is to be happy. And if I would have got my A-levels and gone on to university, I don't think I would be as happy or as content with my life as I know obviously this video has been a bit more sad, but if you look in general in my videos, I feel like I'm growing in confidence in front of the camera, and I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for my anxiety being better, and obviously I wouldn't be able to, and I think if I would have gone to university, I don't think I would be as happy with my life as I am today. Even though obviously it was something that I did want to do, I did want to go and do biomechanics in sport, but I don't know whether that would have made me any happier or any worse. So at the end of the day, I am where I am today because my exams, oh well, I didn't actually do any exams, I just didn't work hard enough in college. But honestly, I much prefer working over education anyway. There will be other people who prefer education over work, but for me personally, I prefer work over education, which I wouldn't have found out about had I gone on with my further education. So it's worked out fine for me. The only thing for me is that obviously I want to increase my confidence in front of the camera. I want to increase, obviously I would like a bit more viewers on my videos, but that only comes by making videos, which I would never be able to do without the confidence to make videos in the first place. So it worked out well for me, I suppose. I do, but yeah, back to the anxiety. A lot of people that I know suffer with anxiety in some form. And when I say suffer with anxiety, obviously, as I said, everybody has anxiety, but when I say suffering, I mean have an overactive alarm system. In a way, I'll keep saying that because that's essentially what anxiety is just, it's an alarm going off, going, there's danger. And once you can realise that that's just basically a faulty alarm, you can cope with it a lot better. I know there's people who can't. There's people who don't know how to cope, and for a while, for a good 4 years, I didn't know how to cope. I'd go into sixth form, school, college, and I was so grumpy. I would snap at people. I think it was around the time I got into a couple of mini fights where I remember there was one time somebody accused me of fouling them playing football, so they kicked me. Actually, not sure if that was. And I got very angry, and I went to go and hit them back, but obviously everybody pulled me back, so I couldn't, and then they had to hold me back for about a minute or so before I calmed down. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I will add stuff every now and again if I can think of stuff before I put the video out. If not, then so basically this is my real life channel. This is stuff. This is gonna be. I'm gonna do challenges in my. I'm gonna do challenges in this video, in this channel. So I will do a couple of video games, but there'll be video games, challenge video games. So it'll be stuff like Bean Boozled and stuff like that, basically. So but for the most part, I have a couple of ideas. I know what I'm going to be filming for next week, which should be a fun video to film. Don't miss it because it's a funny story, something that you are going to want to watch. I know quite a few people who will want to watch it. What else is there? Yeah, no, and then I have my gaming channel, which I'll leave a link to in the description. That is going to be... I post videos on there 3 days a week. I post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I've got 2 series going at the moment. I've got a Jurassic World series on a Monday, and on a Friday I have Slender Man, and then I play random games on a Wednesday. So far I've played GTA, I've played FIFA, I've played Steep. I just play whatever game I can get my hands on. And yeah, I think that's everything. So please go and subscribe to that channel, to my gaming channel, and please subscribe to this channel if you want to see more. Obviously this has been a bit of a kind of downhearted one, but they will get more upbeat at some point. Next week's one will be a funny one to film, which I'll probably film tomorrow. So that should be, yeah, that should be a funny one. And in the meantime, I will see you guys